You? At my wedding? Don't make me laugh, Callum. My weddings are high flyers, not, well, whatever you are. The words cut sharper than the Highland winter wind sweeping across the parking lot. I froze, staring at my older brother, Graham MacLeod, standing outside the glass doors of Balmoral Hall, the most prestigious event centre in all of Inverness. His voice echoed through the air, polished and proud, with that same tone he'd used all his life, the tone that said I was never enough. He stood there in his navy blue suit, polished shoes gleaming, his arm around Isla, his soon-to-be wife. Around him were his friends, men who spoke loudly, laughed loudly, and looked at me like I was a stain on the carpet. I'd come to congratulate him, to offer a handshake, maybe even patch old wounds. But instead, I got humiliation served cold in front of everyone. Graham smirked, adjusting his cufflinks like a king addressing servant. "Don't take it personally, brother," he said with mock sympathy. "You'd stick out. That jacket of yours. I mean, honestly, Callum, you'd ruin the photos." Laughter erupted around him. It was the kind of laughter that bruised pride more than fists ever could. My chest tightened, and I could feel my face flush. I turned to leave, but something inside me, something deep and quiet, whispered, "Remember this moment, Callum. Just remember." I looked back once, and Graham was still talking, bragging to his friends about how he'd managed to book Balmoral Hall, the venue that hosted only the city's elite. The same hall people waited months to secure. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had quietly purchased a hall the previous year under my company, Highland Estates Limited. While he'd been showing off borrowed luxury, I had been building silent stability. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. It was Fraser, my hall manager. "Sir, we just received an online reservation under Graham MacLeod. He hasn't made payment yet." I smiled. "Hasn't paid?" "No, sir, just a reservation." I looked out the window at the Inverness skyline, the last light fading over the River Ness. "Cancel it," I said softly. "Assign the date to the Inverness Business Forum. Their AGM was pending." "Cancel it, sir?" Fraser asked, surprised. "Yes, cancel it. No special treatment." When I hung up, I sat in silence. I wasn't angry, just calm. Calm in a way that comes only when life finally brings you full circle. That night, as the rain tapped gently against my window, I smiled for the first time in months. The man who called me a never-do-well was about to learn that humility pays better than pride. Tomorrow, he'd walk into that hall thinking he owned the place. He had no idea who really did. The morning before the wedding, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. It was Fraser. "Sir," he began, trying not to laugh, "your brother's here at the hall, and is, well, furious." I sipped my coffee. "Let him be. Tell him to speak to the office." At that very moment, Graham was pacing through the whole lobby like a trapped wolf. His voice boomed, drawing attention from every staff member. Isla, his bride, stood a few feet away, whispering anxiously to her maid of honor. "This is absurd," he barked. "I made this reservation a month ago. Do you have any idea who I am?" The young receptionist, Fiona, kept her voice steady. "Sir, the booking was cancelled due to non-payment. We attempted to reach you by email." "I don't care about emails." Graham interrupted, slamming his hand on the counter. "I am the client. This hall was mine." Fiona flinched slightly but stood her ground. "I'm very sorry, Mr. MacLeod, but your date has been reassigned. The Inverness Business Forum will be using it tomorrow for their AGM." The color drained from his face. "Their what? Their AGM? You've got to be joking." He turned sharply. "Get me your manager. Right now." Minutes later, Fraser appeared, composed as always. "Good morning, Mr. MacLeod. I'm Fraser MacNeil, manager here. How can I assist?" "Assist?" Graham scoffed. "You can fix this. My wedding is tomorrow. This hall belongs to me." "I'm afraid it belongs to our client," Fraser said evenly. "We can only honor bookings that are fully paid, since your payment wasn't made." "I want to see the owner." Graham thundered. "Bring him here now." Fraser hesitated, then quietly called me. Sir, he's demanding to see the owner. I chuckled softly. Then bring him up. A few minutes later, my office door opened. Graham stepped in, shoulders tense, jaw tight. Then his eyes locked on mine. He froze. You? I leaned back in my chair, calm and deliberate. Good morning, brother, I said. You wanted to see the owner. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. He looked like he'd been struck. His mouth opened, then closed again. You own Balmoral Hall. Among other things, I replied gently. Please, sit. He did. Silently. The loudest man I knew had gone quiet. He sat there, staring at the polished desk, his pride collapsing like sand under rain. Isla lingered at the door, eyes darting between us. Why didn't you tell me? He asked finally, voice thin. Would it have mattered? I said, you spent years making sure I knew how beneath you I was. He rubbed his temples, sighing heavily. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I interrupted softly. Every insult, every little reminder that I wasn't up to your standard, you meant all of it. He said nothing. The silence stretched long and heavy. Then I leaned forward. You called me a misfit, said I'd embarrass you. Tell me, Graham, who's embarrassed now? His eyes flickered with shame. His arrogance, once a fortress, was now rubble. But instead of gloating, I said quietly, the hole's booked. You can't use it tomorrow, but I'll help you find another venue, if you're humble enough to accept. He looked up sharply. You'd do that for me? Not for you, I said. For Mum. She wouldn't want her sons fighting. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I understand. He stood, offered a shaky handshake, then left without another word. As the door closed, I let out a long breath. It wasn't satisfaction. Not exactly. It was a bittersweet taste of justice, cold, but necessary. That night, however, everything changed. Just after 9 that evening, my phone rang. It was Aunt Morag, Mum's sister. Callum, I didn't want to tell you before, she began, her voice trembling slightly, but Graham's been under a lot of pressure. His drowning in debt. That wedding, it's all for show. I sat down slowly. Debt? How bad? Very bad, she sighed. The cars, the designer suits, all borrowed. He's been trying to keep up appearances. Impress his family. He doesn't even own his flat anymore. The words hit me like a weight. All those years I'd seen him as arrogant, cruel, but maybe, just maybe, he was afraid. Afraid of being ordinary. Afraid of losing face. After the call, I grabbed my coat and drove through the fog to the cemetery on the edge of town. Mum's grave was covered in frost and silence. I knelt beside it. You always told us to take care of each other, I whispered. I tried, Mum, but maybe he needs saving more than I need revenge. The wind whispered through the trees like a sigh. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt sad, and somewhere deep inside, I knew what I had to do next. At dawn, I called Fraser. Prepare the hall, I said. Graham's wedding will hold there after all. He hesitated. Sir, are you sure? Yes, but don't tell him who approved it. Understood. By noon, the hall was ready, flowers arranged, candles glowing, every inch gleaming with luxury. Graham arrived hours later, head hung low, expecting to argue again. But instead, Fiona greeted him with a smile. Good news, Mr. MacLeod. The hall has been made available again. A benefactor intervened. His eyes widened. A benefactor? Yes, sir. He was stunned, speechless, even. The next day, the wedding unfolded like a dream. The air shimmered with laughter, violin music filled the hall, and for the first time, I saw my brother genuinely smile, not the smug grin of arrogance, but the peaceful kind that comes from relief. I stayed at the back of the hall, unnoticed, watching. It was enough just to see him happy. Then, as the guests raised their glasses, the MC took the MIC. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced. Tonight's celebration was made possible by the generosity of Balmoral Hall's owner, Mr. Callum MacLeod. The hall went still. Heads turned. Graham froze, glass halfway to his lips. Then slowly, his eyes found me. He walked over, tears in his eyes. "You did this," he whispered. "For Mum," I said softly. "And for you, to remind you that wealth means nothing without grace." He hugged me tightly, the first genuine embrace we'd shared since childhood. The hall erupted in applause. But even then, I didn't know. The story wasn't over yet. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at my desk. Handwritten. The envelope carried my brother's name. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single page. "Callum, you've taught me more in one act of kindness than I learned in 30 years of pride. I sold the cars, paid my debts. I've started working with Dad's old firm again. Honestly this time. Maybe we can rebuild what I broke. Thank you, brother, Graham." I folded the letter and stared out the window. The river Ness glistened in the morning sun. 4 years. He called me a never-do-well. But maybe that's what it takes, to never do wrong by those you love. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is forgiveness that leave your enemies speechless. They say money changes people. Maybe it does. But humility, that changes souls. My brother called me a misfit. Turns out, being one saved us both.